last night turned into a brawl fest, a brouhaha, as some would say, for the Fever and the Sun. To set some background, because I do realize some people are unfamiliar with the history between Caitlin Clark and J.C. Sheldon. J.C. Sheldon played at Ohio State while Caitlin Clark was at Iowa. So they're both in the Big Ten. Their college careers lined up. They're playing against each other. There were some pretty epic battles between those two teams. Caitlin Clark got the best of Ohio State, as Caitlin Clark got the best out of many. J.C. Sheldon was usually her primary defender. Caitlin Clark made life really difficult for her at times, but this has been a growing rivalry, like a real rivalry. We try to make rivalries happen all the time. You can actually flesh out one between Caitlin Clark and J.C. Sheldon. Caitlin Clark goes number 1 to the Fever. J.C. Sheldon gets drafted number 5. I think the Wings originally took her. She gets traded to the Sun. That's where she is now. We had a game earlier this season where you saw the Connecticut Sun, who are very bad this year, as we have documented on this show, and they do have some spicy players on their roster in J.C. Sheldon, in Marina Mabrey, who is always on crash out alert. And if you follow her family members on TikTok, it's hysterical. But J.C. Sheldon in the game earlier this season, there was the injury on Sid Colson. There was the injury on Sophie Cunningham. And so there's already been this layer set of kind of amplification between the Fever and the Sun. So we get to last night's game, and immediately it feels extra. And particularly Sheldon guarding Caitlin Clark. It's physical. She's pushing her. She's grabbing her. She's staying stuck to her like glue. You have this moment in the second quarter where they're popping off to one another, and Caitlin gives the little shove to J.C. Sheldon. Marina Mabrey steps in there. Caitlin Clark's out, but do not worry, because this would all come back and boil over with the moment of the third quarter where the Fever are up 10. And this is the incident that everybody is talking about today. And you're looking at J.C. Sheldon defending Caitlin Clark. Once again, one-on-one action, bumping, physicality. This is the 90s. Sheldon pokes Caitlin Clark in the eye. And then Caitlin pushes her, and then Mabrey comes out of nowhere, pushes Caitlin Clark to the ground. Tina Charles is in there too. Sheldon gets a flagrant 1 for this whole altercation. Caitlin, Mabrey, and Clark get techs. And then this is the end of the game. That's Sophie Cunningham dragging down J.C. Sheldon to the ground. And this pops off, and we have a full-on fight on our hands in the WNBA. CJ is the keeper of fights. You're the keeper of the fights. Can I call that a fight?
No.
Are we calling it a kerfluffle?
No.
We're calling it a kerscuffle?
A dust-up.
A dust-up?
You can call it a kerfuffle if you want.
No, that feels somehow
it's not March.
sexist.
I'll wait for kerfuffle.
And I heard somebody else was like, oh, the WNBA turned into roller derby last night. I was like, that feels...
That's different. That
sexist.
That absolutely is. Kerfuffle is just a nice...
Kerfuffle. This is
nice
herstory. This is a shiro in real time.
No, that's after what ended up happening. After somebody got taken out in the Pacers, late in the Pacers Thunder game 4 or game 3. It was decided already the Thunder weren't going to be able to win it. It was late. And Jalen Williams sort of turned and looked at the ref. I can't remember exactly who the two players were. Jalen Williams looked at the ref like, hey, do something. That's what I wanted him to do. Just go over there and start grabbing people. You don't have to throw hands, but you can grab and tug and pull and, maybe accidentally elbow a rib or something like that.
That wasn't accidental.
That's
there is no accidental nature from Sophie Cunningham on that play.
Once you get into the tussle, you can accidentally get stuff going.
Got it.
But you're not going to be able to do my teammate that way. You're just not.
Right. That's one of the reasons the Fever go out and get Sophie Cunningham.
That's why I applaud her for doing that. I think everybody, we always look for, all right, who's to blame in this situation of high escalating tension? Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Right? Or good dude that, bad dude that.
Thank you.
I don't know. Good lady, bad lady. I don't know what we do. But in this moment, I think everybody's good. I think if you're guarding Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark's been busting your ass for 6 years, I understand being frustrated to the point of all right, we're just gonna be physical. You beat me in basketball all you want. You can't whoop my ass, so let's find out. And I understand why after getting poked in the eye by somebody who's been a true twerp the entirety of the game, While your immediate reaction after getting poked in that, slap poked in the eye at that, if you're Caitlin Clark, is to hit her with a forearm shiver in the sternum. I understand why Mabry, comes in and shoves Caitlin Clark because you're not going to hit my teammate. And then I understand Sophie Cunningham for grabbing her and taking her out, right? And everything that ensues after that. I applaud everybody involved. That is what sports is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be that level of competing. It's that level of competition. It's that level of a desire to be better and to win and to impose your will on an opponent. I think it was great.
So here's the thing.
Okay. What's the thing?
Some people, there's a lot of different angles for this. Some people are going to be able to scream, the league needs to do a better job at protecting Caitlin Clark. We talk about this in the NBA all the time and the WNBA. Protect your stars. And other stars in the WNBA have been asking for protection of their own. Like, protect your stars. If Caitlin Clark's getting poked in the eye and then getting shoved by someone coming out of left field in Marina Mabry, like, someone's got to get ejected in that case. So protect your star. Others are going to yell, yeah, but that star is an instigating pest, because that's what Caitlin Clark is. No damsel in distress. Like, that is not who she is. She is an instigator, which I love. It makes her as a competitor all the more fun to watch, because not only is she going to just destroy you in the wildest threes that have ever been taken against your team, one after another, she's also going to scream in your face, you can't guard me. And again, when it comes to J.C. Sheldon, there's history there. So you really can't guard me. I've known this for 6 years, and now we're continuing this on again. The Fever also instigated too, because you have a player like Sophie Cunningham who was brought in to act as an enforcer-like player and to protect Caitlin Clark. That's part of the role. Now, can you also make the argument, why is Sophie Cunningham doing this with the Fever up 17 in the last minute of the game when the game is essentially over? I'm saying some people will. I'm not. I don't care about it. At that point, that's what Sophie's for. You're making a statement against your team. This is what happens.
When did the dust-up happen?
The third quarter, and that is why where I would direct my ire in this entire situation is on the officials. That is who is to blame for what happened last night. I could care less about Caitlin Clark talking her ish, getting her stuff off. I could care less about Sophie Cunningham coming to her defense and taking down a player, because on the flip side of that, J.C. Sheldon's been doing it all game. Marina Mabry's been doing it to different teams, including the Fever, all season. But what happens in these cases is if the officials had come in that third quarter altercation, like when it really escalated, when you're getting the eye poke, when you're getting the shove, when Caitlin Clark's down on the ground, somebody has to get ejected. And in that situation, it was probably Marina Mabry. Marina Mabry should have been ejected because it sets a tonal change. It says, this has to stop. This has escalated too far. This has gotten away from just physical rough and tumble. I love the 90s. This is how we play the game. This is now in a position where somebody could get hurt, and this is not fun for anyone. This is not safe for anyone. Somebody's out. And then that changes how the game is played. But instead, everybody stays in. We continue on with our business. And that's why you get Sophie Cunningham chasing down J.C. Sheldon at the end of the game. And that's why you get the skirmish, the kerfluffle, the herfluffle that pops off after that. So there's no one to blame last night but the refs. That's the only person to blame.
Kerherful.
I'm so sorry. Kerherful.
Kerherful.
As a woman, it's hard for me to get it right sometimes.
Hey, listen.
It's not March anymore.
You, like the rest of the women in the W, are no damsel in distress, right? There aren't any of those out there.
I'm not a damsel. I'm not in distress.
There's none of those out there right now.
Hercules is not saving us.
No. And so, if you're not going, to your point, if you, the refs, are not going to get control of this, guess what that means I get to do as a player? It means I get to get control of it.
Right.
It means that I set the message and I let them know, because these two teams play again, correct me if I'm wrong, July 15th? Like, they play again in a couple of weeks. And I want it to be known, if I was out there on the court, I'd want it to be known, hey, I'm going to give you something to remember me by, so that next game, just hold that in the back of your mind. And it can be basketball, it could be something else, and I'm fine either way it goes, right? But to your point, the refs absolutely in that moment. That's why we see ejections happen in sports. It's not necessarily because what somebody did was so egregious. Like that little bump Caitlin Clark took, the one that knocked her down, yeah, it was a shove, but it wasn't so egregious that somebody had to be tossed for the simple act of the shove. But to your point, to keep control of the moment and keep control of the game, somebody's got to go. And so you pick a player and you toss a player. You say, all right, we're giving technicals out and somebody's getting the hell up out of here. So you keep control of the game so that what ends up happening late in that game, while I do love it and I do support it and I don't think there was anything wrong done, it doesn't happen because you don't want somebody to end up seriously injured or hurt. She could have went out there and lost a little bit of control and grabbed her, headlocked her, and flung her, and then she lands on the shoulder, and now we've got this injury that pops off because of a fight, because of a kerfuffle, if you will. So that's why you do that. I look forward to when they play again, though. I can't wait.
Said nobody about any Sun game this season, but yes, now I also can't wait until they play again.
Has RG3 weighed in yet? I want to know his stance on this. I want to know if he thinks that
I just think it's so funny because I saw somebody joke
also.
last night and they were like, I can't wait for the headline that says Angel Reese's former teammate gets in a fight with Caitlin Clark, and then that actually happened. Like, that is a wild thing to occur. But ultimately, like, and I do think there also is a genuine conversation to be had about you do have to protect your stars. I say this all the time, and I know people in Memphis hate it. I live with a Golden State Warriors fan who thinks Steph Curry is the least protected star in the history of the NBA, that he doesn't get calls, that he's not taken care of, that he's put in a position. And it's amazing that up until this last playoffs, he really hadn't been hindered by a significant injury, given how much contact that he takes, and there's not any sort of regulation from the eyes of Golden State Warriors fans. That's becoming a narrative with Caitlin Clark, too. That there are multiple situations where she's taking hard fouls that are not called, and in a situation like last night, she's getting pushed to the ground and dead ball, and that player is not ejected.
She earned getting pushed to the ground. That's fine. Right? Like that's.
But if you're the one who does the pushing, there has to be something done.
They're not in distress. You don't have to.
But you can say that without that person being in distress and without them babying.
Don't baby them.
No, and I agree with you on that.
Okay, so but
I agree with you on that.
Just
but you do get eventually you get superstar calls, and I do think
you don't need to.
LeBron James gets superstar calls every damn game.
That's awful. That's terrible. That's atrocious. I don't want the solution to LeBron getting superstar calls and nobody else getting them.
Not other players getting superstar calls.
It's to stop giving him that shit. That's the solution.
Fine.
I appreciate Caitlin Clark. I marvel at her game. I do not. Part of the reason I marvel at her game is because she's able to get up and face down that level of physicality, right? Like, that's cool to me. That's awesome to me. That's fun for me to sit down and watch them play through the physicality.
The opposing team as she's running off the court. I love when she's bringing the fans into it. I agree. Caitlin Clark is a show. We do this with so many words. Showmanship expert, a showwomanship expert. She's a showmanship expert. We don't have to do this.
Showpersonship?
Yeah, showpersonship. She lives for those moments.
Yeah,
like they
so
fuel her. Like all
don't
great
take that
athletes
away.
in the history of the world, she is fueled by the hate, the disrespect, every perceived like.
Is she? Is she fueled by that?
No, I think she's fueled by just making people look stupid.
Is she?
I think she's fueled by her greatness. Yes.
I think that might be what fuels it.
But that
I don't know if
makes people
Caitlin Clark is
don't
out
think-
here with a chip
you don't
like,
think
like
6
oh, this
years-
person said blah, 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 blah about me.
I
Because
don't think
also
it's
those
about.
people are few and
I don't
far
think it's
between.
about that this person said blah 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 blah
Okay.
about me. I think it's more about like this person cannot guard me fairly, and this person has to resort to being as physical as humanly possible. I'm not going to get these calls, or at least in her brain, I'm not getting these calls, so I'm just going to do it anyway. I'm just going to smoke you anyway. Like, I do think there's some element to that. And then she turns and she gets back in the face.
Okay.
You can't guard me. Nothing you can do. What the F do you think you can do?
When she told her, I can do whatever the F I want.
I can do whatever the F I want. Like,
it's like
you can grab my arm and I can still do whatever the F I want.
In that moment, it is like I kind of understand. As somebody who has had his ass busted by dudes and in moments of frustration just resorted to fouling, I understand JC's frustration in that moment. Because what are you like? Okay.
Also, you're on a two-win team.
You can do whatever the hell you want. Win the basketball game. We're 2 and whatever, but we're undefeated in fights. Come fight me about this, dog.
The Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hart, live every weekday at 8 a.m.